What's up, everybody? Dave here. Just want to remind you that this episode of Tales from the Backlog is brought to you by the patrons of The Tube. Personal heroes of mine, such as Chris Nelson and the Top 3 podcast crew, have gone to patreon.com/realdavejackson to support The Tube, and they're getting some cool treats in return. You can be like them and head to patreon.com/realdavejackson, and you will be my hero too. All right, let's get to the show.
The sun is setting and you're right here by my side, and the movie is playing, but we won't be watching tonight. Every look, every touch makes me wanna give you my heart. I've been crushing on you, baby. Stay right where you are, 'cause I never knew you could hide moonlight in your hands till the night I held you.
Hey everybody, my name is Dave Jackson, and you're listening to Tales from the Backlog, a video games podcast where each week I'm joined by a guest to talk about a game we played. My guest today is a friend of the show, co-host of the Between Two Gamers podcast, and experienced camp counselor, Liv Beyer. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. Today, Liv and I are going to be talking about The Quarry, which is a cinematic horror adventure game developed by Supermassive Games and published by 2K for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC in 2022. And Liv, if you had to give a quick elevator pitch for The Quarry, what would you say?
If you stayed at summer camp a little too long because you wanted more than you could handle.
I think that counts. And you are going to get more than you could handle. I wrote, a cinematic horror game set at a summer camp with counselors who bit off a little bit more than they could chew, right?
I wanted to just be a little ominous.
Yeah, a little bit. This is a supermassive game, so you know things are not going to go well for everybody there. Spoiler policy for today's episode is going to be a regular Tales from the Backlog spoiler policy. This is a very cinematic game. The story is very important, and the story can go in many different ways. So we are going to save all of that stuff for the spoiler section, and we'll talk about kind of top-down thoughts about the story and gameplay and stuff in the non-spoiler part, just like a regular episode. But before we get into talking about The Quarry, Liv, I want to give you a chance to tell people what's going on Between Two Gamers.
So I'm Liv from Between Two Gamers, very obviously. I co-host that with my best friend Frui, who lives in the UK. So when we do guest appearances, it's usually pretty split because of time zones. So we started off initially as doing one episode a week, but then our news segment ran a little long. So Between Two Gamers is now on Wednesdays and Fridays.
Yeah.
Wednesdays is our main topic of the show. Sometimes we do game reviews. Sometimes I make Frui talk about weird things like, why does this game have a cookbook? Or let's play a game where I describe the cover art of a video game and see if you know what it is. And then Friday, we get into news and rumors. If it's a light news week, I start making up stuff and I don't tell them about it.
Very good. That's one of the things I enjoy about Between Two Gamers is the energy that you have and the situations where you are going like full energy and Frui's very obviously a little bit uncomfortable or like unsure of what's going on. It's great content, great podcasting content.
Thank you. I like to say that I pull him out of his comfort zone.
Yeah. And besides Between Two Gamers, Liv, you've also got something cool going on for all of the indie podcasters out there, gaming podcasters, of which I know there are lots of people listening. And so there is a Discord server that you've started for indie gaming podcasters. And can you tell everybody what that's all about?
Yeah, it's called Co-op Podcasting Network. It kind of came out of nowhere in a sense. So it really formed from Twitter. And then I started to notice that we started reaching out to people to collab. And then we would join their Discord servers and we saw a lot of familiar faces. So I asked Furry and I said, do you think we could like set something up? Like, can you just set it up for me and I will do everything? So he built it all and he then transferred it to me and said, do your social thing. So what I do is I started looking through people's Twitters. As soon as I got like one person, I would just go through their followers and I was like, they're going to have friends. And what started with about 5 people, I think we're like in the middle of the 100s now. So I couldn't have predicted what that would turn into.
Yeah. I honestly, when you invited me, I was not sure what it was going to be about. Is it just going to be one of those Discord servers that's just all people, you know, I post my podcast episode and then I disappear for a week. And then next week I come in and post my episode again. And that's not really what's happened. I've said a lot of times on this show that one of the like unseen, like great benefits of doing a podcast is the community of other podcasters and how supportive and cool everybody is. And you've gathered hundreds of podcasters all in the same place. And it's a very cool and supportive space. And I enjoy it.
Oh, I'm glad that you enjoy it. A lot of people kind of thought I was a bot messaging them, so then I had to change up how I presented it. But I like to think of it as a place where you make friends and you find people with similar interests. And then that's how you go on someone's podcast and stuff. It's not one of those follow for follow, sub for sub type things. Like, I feel like a lot of people genuinely made friends, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah. And like I said, that was my worry when I first got the invite, and that is not what's going on there. So if anyone listening is an indie games podcaster and you're looking for a space full of other podcasters to talk shop or just talk about games, movies, whatever, it's turned out to be a really cool place. So the Co-op Podcasting Network Discord server, really good job there, Liv. So I'll put it, I will, this is sending out the call. Anyone who's not involved, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, definitely check that out. So we're going to get into talking about the Quarry, and we begin each episode by talking about our personal histories with it. So, Liv, what's your history with Supermassive, and what made you want to play the Quarry?
I played Until Dawn, and my experience with that was my freshman year of college. We all got around into someone's dorm room, and we sat there, and the one guy had the PlayStation, and he went off of what everyone in the room wanted. So I had an experience with a lot of people, and that was my introduction to choice-based games, and I was into it. So as soon as The Dark Pictures came out, which was supposed to be like that, but never lived up to what Until Dawn was, in my opinion, I saw the Quarry come out, and I said, this is a day one purchase for me. And I'm very, very happy with how that game turned out.
Yeah, so I keep saying this. We're in the middle, or we're finishing up a month full of horror games on the podcast, and I still insist that I don't like horror games. And I've started to like really enjoy them a lot more over the last year or so. I still don't like games that are full of jump scares. You will never ever see me playing like Five Nights at Freddy's or some shit like that. But I never played Until Dawn like way back in the day. I never played the Dark Pictures games because I don't like scary stuff. But I did an episode of Play Along podcast with Jared on his show, where everyone recommends a game to each other and you play it and then you discuss. And he made me play Until Dawn because I told him I don't like horror games. And he was like, yeah, you're playing Until Dawn then. So I ended up really loving it though, despite what I would have expected. And so like you, when I heard about the Quarry, I was like, okay, I don't know if it's going to be a day one thing, but I'm definitely going to play that. And that was a game that like, I knew you were playing it a lot. So when I was thinking about who to have on the show for it, it was a perfect opportunity to invite you on.
Yeah, I've played this game twice already.
Nice.
So I don't know how you play choice-based games, but I like to go in and have my authentic experience. Then the next time I go in, I want to try to get the best outcome possible. And then usually my third run, which I haven't done yet because I don't want to burn myself out of the game, I'm going to kill everyone.
Yeah. And we'll talk about those choices later on in the episode and kind of our motivations behind those. Definitely. If people are wondering how long the Quarry is, my playthrough took about 8 hours, maybe 8, 9 hours, 10 hours, something like that. PlayStation's not super accurate tracking stuff like that. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I spent definitely 10 hours into it because I'm a bit of an achievement hunter and collectible hunter. So I will walk around and click on everything.
Yeah. So, like I said before, this is a super cinematic game. So this is not, unless you skip all the cutscenes, this isn't a game that's going to take less than 8 hours, I would guess. But unless you spend a bunch of time hunting for collectibles, you're not going to add a ton of time onto it. I feel like it's going to be pretty consistent. So a little bit of opening thoughts about the Quarry before we get into kind of the meat of the episode. I think this game's really fun. Like, I had a really good time taking in the story, making those choices, getting to know the characters, and kind of unraveling the mystery. I don't think I like this as much as Until Dawn, but it's like some things that the Quarry does better than Until Dawn, and then other things Until Dawn does better than the Quarry. So it's not like an upgrade in every area. It just kind of like, it's a different kind of story. It's different types of characters. Different people are going to like different things about each game. But I still did have a good time. And you mentioned that co-op stuff. I think that the co-op options that they've put into this game, and like the wolf pack mode, I think they call it, which we'll talk about later, all of those are really awesome inclusions. It's not something for me because I play games alone all the time. But for a lot of people, they're going to find a lot of stuff to like about the Quarry. What about you?
Yeah, I don't want to turn it into a compare contrast with Until Dawn, but what I will say is I thought that the characters in the Quarry were more memorable and more personable. I felt like you could tell like each character's a part. In Until Dawn, it was kind of, here's a stereotype by a stereotype by a stereotype type of person.
Mm-hmm.
The dialogue's much more improved, but I would say that I didn't find the Quarry scary. I thought it was more of an adventure mystery game, but I was terrified of Until Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrified.
Yeah, totally fair. I kind of feel the same way about this as someone who's very sensitive to spooks. So let's take a little music break, listen to some music from the Quarry, and when we'll come back, we'll get into that breakdown. So in the Quarry, you control a group of teenagers who are having one last night at summer camp after the kids go home. Yada, yada, yada. You need to keep them alive until dawn. You know,
Yeah.
We're going to try to avoid making a ton of comparisons to Until Dawn, but I think it's unavoidable sometimes. It's still the same type of thing. You're trying to figure out what's going on while also trying to keep these characters alive throughout the night as everything goes to shit. And I think that this like summer camp, it's a classic like horror movie setting, right? This is basically a movie you're playing through and making choices. But I really like the summer camp and kind of the surrounding area as a setting for this game. It just leads to all kinds of like really fun things that they can do, fun kind of spaces that you can be in. You're inside of a camp lodge, and you're going around where all the cabins are, where people sleep. And I really enjoyed this setting a lot.
I definitely liked that. It definitely added to the ambiance of a horror game. You're in the woods. Everything's scarier in the woods. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked what this was about, setting-wise, as well.
Yeah. Did you go to summer camp or something when you were a kid?
I was pretty fortunate. I had one parent home, so I didn't go out to summer camp like most kids. But I can only imagine the campfire stories campers would tell. Were you one of those?
Yeah. I went to Boy Scout camp at least 2 times, I want to say, when I was a kid. So there were definitely those stories. Like in the game, there's one of the counselors who's telling a scary story and really freaks the kids out. And that definitely happened to me. And so like the place where I went, it wasn't, this big body of water like the Quarry, but it was similar enough where I can put kind of my memories from that into like the setting of this game. And again, like there's all kinds of slasher movies about summer camps and stuff like that too. So it's really like a pretty natural setting. I enjoyed it. So the kind of top-down story, as you're trying to figure out what's going on, obviously we're not going to spoil what's happening in the game, but did you enjoy that process of like learning about what's going on?
Yeah, like I said, I thought that this was more so a mystery game. So every time they showed something, I was thinking, okay, so how does this relate to how this happened? And it kind of, I think maybe around the halfway point, it kind of tells you why things are going on. But I feel like I kind of knew earlier than that. So I don't know if you felt that way too.
Yeah, it's a pretty common like point of criticism for this game's story is that they do show their hand pretty early on, but instead of having one giant thing that you're uncovering and then at the end of the game you're suddenly like, "Oh, that's what's going on." This one kind of shows you pretty early what's happening, but there are a bunch of small mysteries and character relationships and things like that that they slowly like tease you with. And I spent most of this game still like, okay, I know the big thing, but I don't know these 5 smaller things. And then figuring those out as you go was just as fun as, another comparison to Until Dawn, figuring out what the hell was going on in that game, which is something that like you don't know until 70% through the game, like what's happening in that game.
Yeah.
Not that way in the Quarry.
No, not at all.
You mentioned the characters earlier. I think the characters in the Quarry are a lot more likable this time around. Like you mentioned the stereotypes in Until Dawn. You had like, this guy's the jock character. This is the bitchy girl. This is the cheerleader girl. And in the Quarry, they're a lot more nuanced and rounded. Like there's still, what's her name? Brenda Song's character is still like very assertive and stuff like that, but she's not just like a bitch to everybody, like Emily was in Until Dawn. They're a lot more rounded. And before I say what I think, like, did you enjoy these characters and how this kind of like having them be more likable makes you feel as you go through this game, trying to keep them alive?
Yeah, I think the characters were more likable because they felt more unique and true to who they were. They didn't feel like a copy and paste of a stereotype, like we said. But I loved Dylan. Might be because I'm gay, but I love him. And so he was my favorite, and I wanted to protect him at all costs. I also loved Laura a lot. And some people really didn't like her, but I could not relate to that. The only character I didn't really care for was Nick.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. So I was thinking about this earlier today, and if you asked me how many characters in Until Dawn that I really liked, I would say maybe 2, 3, maybe. And I think I like most of this cast. There's like at least 15 characters, and I think they're all pretty good, pretty likable. However, one thing that I liked about Until Dawn was because the characters were such pieces of shit, when they died, it was more fun, right? So like, in my opinion, when a certain character died in Until Dawn, I was like, oh, okay, that's fun. They died in this cool way. I didn't care about them that much. In the Quarry, when something bad happens to one of these characters, I got that instinct back a little bit to be like, I wonder if I could, and the Quarry does give you like a rewind option after you beat the game one time, but I did get that thing where it's like, oh, did I make the wrong choice? Like, that doesn't feel great. Whereas in Until Dawn, I was like, this is fun. I don't give a shit. I hate all these people. If they die, no problem. But did you have that in this game too, or were you just having a good time the whole way?
I'm here for the ride on the first playthrough. I like to go in, ride or die. When they saw the rewind button for my second playthrough, I said, turn that off. We gotta, no. We have to live and die by what happens. And if I don't get the canon ending that I want, I'll try again. I won't do that because I understand why people would like that feature, but I gotta play it my natural way.
Yeah, that's definitely how I played it too. I just didn't have that like, fun slasher movie feeling when a character died in this one because I liked all of them. It's a weird thing. You have more likable characters. That seems like it would be a total positive, but I actually liked how having a piece of shit character in Until Dawn die was kind of fun. And it didn't feel so fun in this way, but I still didn't, like, if I play it again, I'm not going to use that rewind. That feels like if you're achievement hunting, basically. Use that rewind so that you can keep everyone alive and get the trophy for it or something. I think this game looks really good. That's the next thing about like the kind of cinematic like approach to it. Obviously, it's been a long time since Until Dawn, and the Dark Pictures games are a little bit lower budget than this game is. This game looks like incredible. Like one of the first scenes at the camp is like this late afternoon. You're walking through the forest. There's like this light coming down through the trees. And I think I like took screenshots and shared it around because I was like, fuck, this is beautiful. Like this looks incredible.
I was very happy with how I first of all, I wish this game had photo mode. I'm a big photo mode snob.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like to do in video games is if there's a puddle on the ground or if there's something wet, I will walk through it and then do circles around it. If you've seen our recent stray TikToks and YouTube shorts, I just knock paint over and make paw prints everywhere. So the fact that you could see their footprints and stuff, I love that kind of stuff. The attention to detail, I'm really into. So when the sun was setting, I was like, this is so beautiful. I know things are going to go bad, but right now, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. And like later on at night, you get in lots of situations where the moon is shining brightly and you have all these, the same kind of lighting, but it's moonlight in the forest or out on the surface of the water or something like that. And this game just never stops looking great. Really enjoyed it. The motion capture is way better than it was in Until Dawn. I had some big uncanny valley with like Rami Malek's character in that game, especially, but with, I forget the name of the psychologist in that game, the therapist, but his mouth was super weird in that game. And I didn't have a whole lot of that in this game. It's just a big step up.
Yeah. My biggest pet peeve is when the voice and the mouth movements don't match up. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what are you even doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Just a really good looking game. And it's good because there's some well-known actors in this game. I mentioned Brenda Song before, which is someone who I gather is famous. I'd never heard of her before this.
Hold on. Time out. Time out. You never watched Sweet Life of Zack and Cody as a child?
No, I think I was a child before The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
Well, yeah, but not that young.
So we all know her as London Tipton, and we called her London Tipton. My neighbor is not a choice-based game person, so because she struggles with making choices. So we have this tradition with these scary games where she would come over to my house and we'll talk out like the choices. So we did that, and she's like, "You gotta protect London Tipton," and I was like, "I'm trying."
Well, fair enough. I mean, if I'm on the outside of not knowing who Brenda Song is, that's cool. It wouldn't be the first time. I'm especially bad with actors and actresses because I just don't watch a lot of TV or movies. A couple people I do recognize, though. David Arquette plays the camp counselor in this game, or like the camp owner, the owner of the camp. He's really good. And this game has my personal favorite random dude to suddenly show up and stuff, Ethan Suplee, who, if you don't know that name, he was in Remember the Titans. He was Louis Lastic. He was in My Name is Earl. He was in Mallrats. He's the dude staring at the schooner optical illusion thing. I love that dude. So when I saw his name in the credits, I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Okay. You see where he is.
So what character is that? Bobby!
Yeah.
Sorry, I know like all the character names.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot his name, and I cut out that part earlier because it's a spoiler who he is. You got to find him for yourself, people. But I was very happy to see him because I grew up watching Remember the Titans. I've seen that movie 100 times. So anytime I see that dude, good times. All the actors are really good in this game, though. Like, I enjoyed pretty much everyone's performances. And when I sat down today to write down like a couple of standouts, suddenly I had a list of 10 characters and 10 actors who I thought did a great job. So I'll just give a couple. The sheriff is so good. I love that dude. You'll see him in like the prologue of the game. The sheriff, the fortune teller who you meet between chapters is so fucking creepy. I love her.
I love her.
She's so good. And again, it's that facial capture, the kind of high def kind of textures, skin textures and stuff like that. She's so creepy and so good. Did you have any characters that you thought were, or actors or performances that you thought were really stand out?
I love Dylan. I just love
yeah,
that
that's
man.
right, Dylan.
I love him so much. He was my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I just enjoyed how the characters interacted with each other. It kind of really felt like a summer camp in a way that, you know, everyone's there for a job and you don't really have like the same interests, but you're in this situation and over time you learn how to interact with each other and your environment really brings you together. And I felt like they really showed that because you can tell some of these characters wouldn't be hanging out with each other had they been at school.
Right. There's a definite camaraderie that only comes when you spend the entire summer with only this group of like 8 other people, right? So I definitely agree. You definitely got that feeling that they didn't fit the same kind of like social groups all the time, but they definitely know each other and they treat each other like that. So you mentioned earlier that you didn't think that this game was super scary. And so this is a horror game. It's meant to be at least a little bit scary, right? What about this game do you think made it kind of more of a spooky mystery than a straight up horror game?
It felt like more of a mystery game to me. Like, why are these things happening? What's in the woods? What do we need to be doing? I feel like there's not the cheap jump scares, which usually always get me. But I think it's hard for this environment for it to be super scary without being like super gory. Because I feel like gore for me is what's really scary. And there's not a whole lot of gore in this game.
There are some spots that are super fucking gory. And some of the character deaths, I imagine, can be really gory too. But it's not all time gore. It's not gore all the time. And I even think that some of the things I'm talking about are based on choices that you make. You might not even see them. So once we get to spoiler time, I'm curious to, because I have a couple things like, did Liv not see this happen? So once we get there, I'm going to see if our experience was super different in that way. But I agree, not a whole lot of jump scares. I fucking hate jump scares. I think that they are, I know that they have their place, right? Build up tension and then release it, et cetera, et cetera. I don't like it. And so whenever I play a horror game that establishes this tense atmosphere and this mystery and stuff without just having things jumping at the screen all the time, it gets so much more respect from me. And this game, I can't even really think of, I'm sure there were a couple of jump scares. Yeah, there were a couple, even one in the prologue, but it's not something that this game relies on. And I think you're right. Like, I think that this game is trying to get you thinking about the mystery and what's going on and being tense about trying to keep your characters alive, but not trying to just scare the shit out of you. Like, I remember in the Until Dawn, like the making of Until Dawn, they would have people play test it with like a heartbeat monitor to like make sure that they were scared enough. And I don't feel like that was a point of emphasis here.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that, but I was really afraid of the mystery entity within Until Dawn. Probably because it was really ugly. But yeah, that's all I'll say. But I just felt like I didn't have that fear of what was on the other side in the quarry. I think I wanted to know more.
Yeah.
I felt more intrigued.
There's a more kind of human mystery going on here too. Like, don't get me wrong, there's something bad out there, but there is definitely more of a focus on human relationships and human mysteries and things like that in the quarry compared to Until Dawn and a lot of horror games where there are bad things out there, right?
Yeah.
So in I said Until Dawn, in the Quarry, you are making a bunch of choices, and you've mentioned this throughout the episode. The developers say that there are 168 possible endings, with many combinations of who survives and who dies. I am kind of curious when we get to the spoiler section to get your experience, because I have only talked to a couple other people about their full experience. I finished this game with most of the main cast alive. I think only one of them died, and it felt very easy to keep them alive. And I don't know if I just make the best choices or if that's the way it goes. Can you confirm or deny without spoiling?
I had most of the cast alive, and when I tell you how said people died later, feel free to laugh at me.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So the choices in the game are sometimes picking dialogue options based on, like, you're having a conversation and it'll just say, hey, say this or say this, and see what happens. And a lot of those dialogue options are pretty harmless. Some of them are important, and the game never really tells you what's the important one and what's the harmless one. Like, early in the game, there's a choice where it's like, talk to this guy or listen to a podcast. And it doesn't really matter what you do, I don't think. I picked listen to a podcast because, well, podcasters, right? So I think that's a really good thing, though. Like, I went through the entire game. Sometimes I knew that, like, oh, this is an important choice. Like, I better not fuck this up. But sometimes I made what seemed like a harmless choice that turned into an important one, whether it was a good thing that I chose or not. Did that happen for you too? That same feeling?
Yeah, sometimes you'll make a choice and you don't really understand the ramifications of it until maybe a few hours later. And then you're like, okay.
And this game tells you, it actually tells you, I think in a message, sometimes you'll get a choice of like, do this or do that or do nothing. And sometimes doing nothing is the correct choice. And that is so, it bugs me, but I love it. Like, I love the fact that doing nothing is sometimes the right thing to do, but it doesn't seem like it should be. Like, you're playing a video game, you should be choosing A or B, right? But a lot of times, if you just sit back and watch, things will work out better. Not all the time, though. Like, you shouldn't always pick that. And I love the fact that they added that in as like a third choice, that a lot of the time it's there.
Yes, and it's also really funny, too, when you say nothing or do nothing in times where you very obviously should do something. And I've done a couple of those because I'm a big fan of these choice-based games. So you could create some really awkward moments by choosing to say or do nothing, and it's hilarious. But yeah, you should make a choice most of the time, unless you're doing a meme run.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes, like, it would be fun to play through this game and always pick what would make things awkward or what would make things more difficult for everybody, like on a replay, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. The game does give you this thing in the menu called, I think it's called The Path You've Chosen. I didn't look this. Actually, I tried to look it up. I couldn't find it. And I sold the game, so I couldn't look in the game anymore. But it's a menu screen where it shows you the choices you've made in the past and how it kind of impacts what's going on now. You don't get any clue about this, like, before or during the choice. It's only after, like, maybe even after you move on to the next chapter or something like that. And I don't know why, but I really liked going back and looking through these. They don't give you like a ton of information about like what was the right choice or not, but it let you know what was the important choices that you made before. And there were a lot in there where I was like, oh, I had no idea that that was important. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, I like the branching pathways that a lot of the choice-based games have. So what I particularly liked about this one was it was kind of like a flip book for the narrative arc for like, oh, these three characters are usually grouped together. So here's their narrative arc and how X, Y, and Z led to the three of them doing this. And there's games with very large branching stories where you could click through in it, even if you played it like a second or third time, it will show your other choices and you can unlock it, like Detroit Become Human. And I really enjoy stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy looking through this, if just to see like, oh, hey, that seemingly harmless thing I did 3 chapters ago, turns out that was important. It's very cool how they do that. This game has a ton of cutscenes. It's, like I said, it's basically an interactive movie where sometimes you get to walk around and do stuff. A lot of times you're making choices and just watching cutscenes. So cutscene heavy, in fact, that there is a movie mode in the main menu. And the developers got a lot of feedback from the previous games that people who don't play video games liked to watch other people play this. So they just put this in the game. They're like, hey, just watch all the cutscenes with this predetermined set of choices and enjoy this as a like 7-hour movie. I don't know how long this is, but enjoy this as like, you know, a Netflix series basically. And I think that's pretty cool. I'm not going to do it, but I know that there are people out there who would.
Yeah, there's a trophy for movie mode and I kind of want it. So I work from home. So I've been thinking about how I could just toggle it. I haven't experimented with it yet, but from my understanding, you can do like randomize or you could pre-select things that can happen. So quickest way to do it, kill them all. So that's probably what I'll do when I have a slow day.
Yeah. Or you could just put it on in the background instead of like, you know, a TV show or something like when I do work from home, I will put on ESPN or something in the background. It's just on. I'll look over and I'll see Stephen A. Smith yelling about something. And I'll be like, oh, yes, that's what he does. But you could just throw on the Quarry movie mode and stuff like that.
Better content.
Yeah. Yeah. Much better than watching Skip Bayless, for sure.
Yeah.
There's another mode that I think is really cool. Again, developers got feedback that these games are fun to watch. And so they added in this thing called Wolfpack mode, which is a thing where you create a private game lobby and you play the game and the people watching can vote on the choices that you make. And I know they're having trouble with this a while ago, like streamers were having trouble integrating this, but may have gotten fixed by now. I don't stream, so I didn't research any further. But this is another really cool thing where if you have a group of people over at the house and you want to have them vote, you can do that. Or if you have, let's say you're streaming in a Discord server, people watching can vote on what the choices are. And if you don't really care about the outcome, you just want to have a good time, that seems like a really fun inclusion. Again, all based on fan feedback from how people liked to experience, if not play, the previous games.
Yeah, that's a good feature. I used to stream, which I haven't streamed in months, but I know that people really enjoy that feature. I know a ton of games have Twitch integrations now, so I mean, it's a seamless fit with this game.
Yeah, it's really cool. So we've talked a lot about what it's like to watch The Quarry and what the story is like, but what is it actually like to play The Quarry? So the first thing I wrote down is this game has a very fun little tutorial system teaching you how to do the gameplay things in the game. The little educational like Cub Scout type videos with super funny animations and cute ways for the little characters to die and stuff like that. I consistently thought these were funny. Like, even though they're explaining things, like, I don't need to watch a tutorial to learn how to do QTEs, but I enjoyed watching these. They're pretty entertaining.
I loved them.
They're good.
I loved them. I didn't need to learn anything about the game. I've played every one of these choice games, but I was like, gotta watch the cartoon.
Mm-hmm. It's got a good voice actor as like the kind of camp counselor voice explaining how to survive at Hackett's Quarry. And yeah, funny, good animations, good times. I mentioned QTEs. This is a game that has a lot of QTEs. Sometimes failing them will get characters killed. I thought this game has, for as serious as the consequences are, I thought these QTEs were really easy. And you can make them easier. There's an option in the menu to, like, instead of having to press X, you can press any button or something like, or instead of like needing to push the control stick up and press a button, it's just literally press anything during this timing window you'll be fine. So that's a good inclusion. I know QTEs are not good for everybody. I thought these were real easy. If we want to make the comparison to Until Dawn, way easier than the QTEs in Until Dawn.
Yeah, these were very forgiving.
Yeah. There's a lot of scenes where you're like, I don't know, maybe you're being chased and you're running through the woods and you have to hit QTEs to not trip over shit on the ground. And in Until Dawn, it was like over, like QTE, like repeatedly, like different buttons. They're putting them all over the screen in different places, like pretty easy to miss one. And this, I mean, I know I missed some throughout the game, but I never missed any that were important.
Yeah.
Being coy about something for later in the spoiler section.
Maybe.
Okay, fair enough. Until Dawn was famous for these special QTEs called Don't Move QTEs, where you had to put the controller, or what I did, put the controller down on the table, but you're supposed to hold it still without moving it because they have motion sensors, right?
Yeah, that's a good thing to do if you played it, so you know. Because by the time, you got to put that down before. Because if you do it in motion, you're dead.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had a couple of real frustrating ones in Until Dawn where I was like, I did not move. I promise you, I did not move. And I still lost. But those are not the case in the Quarry. The Quarry has replaced the don't move the controller QTEs with hold down X to hold your breath and wait until the coast is clear to release it, basically. And if you fail it, something bad may or may not happen. I went half the game without knowing how these worked because I skipped the tutorial because I was like, I know how these work, but they changed it. None of the characters died because of it, though later on in the game, there were several where I was like, oh yeah, they're going to die if I miss this, but they're super easy.
Now, question for you. Did you ever hold it outside of it? Were you worried that they might come back? Or once you were in the clear, you let go?
No, once, because it shows a red border on the screen when you're in danger, and when that red thing goes away, just let it go and you're fine.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you hold it for too long, they'll come back. So then you will be low on the breath. So you could, because you're like, ooh, I don't want to let go too early. They might come back as soon as I do it. You're actually, because you were extra cautious, you could put yourself in a precarious situation. Did find that out for fun.
Definitely. I didn't have any trouble with these. And while I was a little bit frustrated by the don't move the controller QTEs, I think these are too easy to establish any kind of tension once you know how they work.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. There are a lot of sections in the game where you're walking around looking for stuff. It has the kind of survival horror type fixed cameras in a lot of them. A lot of them, you're just the cameras behind your character, but not all the time. And anytime the character or the camera moves to a weird spot or weird angle, that always gives me a little bit of like, what do they not want me to see here? You know? So you're walking around looking for stuff. Just like the previous games, there are collectibles to find. There are these tarot cards that you can find that work similar to the totems in Until Dawn. They'll give you a tiny, cannot emphasize enough, tiny little snapshot of something that might happen to a character later based on your choices. And I think they're supposed to be somewhat helpful. Like, they're too short to give you like a full scene, but there were a couple of them that were very obvious. And then it was like, oh, this character is getting on a zip line and they fall and die. And I see that in this 1 second little clip they show you. Then later on, a character gets on a zip line and I'm like, oh, pay attention. Something bad might happen. So that does happen sometimes.
Yeah. Once you experience the moment, you're like, oh, that's the warning.
Yeah. Other times, though, they'll show you like a little cutscene and it's like a 1 second clip of people on fire. And you're like, that doesn't help me. Fire could happen anytime, right? So a lot of them are less than helpful, but they're still really fun because then you get to talk to the fortune teller lady between chapters. And like I said earlier, she's the best.
I loved her so much.
So you said you were collectible hunting when you walked around. You can pick up like lore notes and stuff like that, little clues around that might they're not going to like tell you what's really happening, but they're little pieces of the puzzle. And I bet if you collect enough of them, that there's probably some foreshadowing in that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell you more about what the collectibles mean in the larger picture, but not right now.
Not right now. Right. Of course. Well, I thought these sections were really tense because I was never sure of which collectible is going to be a little newspaper clipping, or which, like, you know, shining thing on the screen is going to be a newspaper clipping that tells me something that happened 30 years ago, or which one is going to be the thing I interact with and then suddenly something's going to jump through a window at me. So I always had that tension of like, I want to explore around. I also am very worried about what's going to trigger like something happening, you know?
Yeah, because sometimes you'll click on something and it's a narrative point to push on the story.
Yeah.
You know what pissed me off about these collectibles, though?
What's that?
You had to pick them all up twice if you wanted to read the collectible. So you picked it up and it would give you like the picture of it.
Yeah.
And then you have to put it down, pick it back up, and then the text would spawn. Who thought of that?
Weird. I always picked them up, saw the picture, and then went into the menu to read the thing, which is
they give you a little description.
We're still doing one step too many. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the full text. Oh, it irritated me.
Shit. So did I just go through the whole game without reading the whole text? I think I did.
So if you picked up like a newspaper, did you read the whole newspaper? Or did you just have this like one paragraph is like, this is a newspaper clipping from blah, blah, blah?
Oh, no, I think I saw some full text.
Okay.
But definitely not for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more to it, and it pissed me off. That is my one, like, what are you doing?
So you said you were collecting, like, driven by getting the platinum trophy or whatever. Did you play on PS5 or somewhere else?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you're trying to get the platinum in this game, right?
I would have liked to do that, but a lot of the trophies are choice dependent. So I think you have to play the game a significant amount. But I went around and found every single collectible and the tarot cards and stuff like that.
Okay. Did you enjoy reading that stuff?
I love lore. Just let me read and click on everything. If anything is shiny, I clicked on it.
Yeah, I clicked on it too. Maybe now that you're talking to me and telling me that, like, hey, Dave, maybe you didn't actually read the articles. Maybe you just read the little snippet in the menu. I wrote down here that I thought they were less interesting than I would have liked, but it turns out that I might not have seen the whole thing, which kind of sucks. It should just pull it up when you pick up the item, pull up the whole thing, and let you close out of it if you don't want to read it.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah. Do you know how many tarot cards there are?
Definitely more than 10. Want to say less than 20.
Okay. I think I got maybe a third of them, less than half, probably. There were several chapters where I would not find any. And if you go into the fortune teller's little thing between chapters, she'll like kind of rip on you. She'll be like, bro, you didn't bring me anything. I can't help you. Like, bring me some shit. Like, what's wrong with you?
I think I've gotten pretty good at finding collectibles from the types of games that I play. So last week I just recently finished Stray, and I missed 4 collectibles in the entire game. And I was like,
Jesus.
Yeah. There's, I think, 27, but I missed 4, and I was angry.
Damn. Yeah, I mean, if I saw one, I picked it up for sure. And I felt like I did a decent job of exploring, but also I was kind of scared. So I'm not poking around everywhere. There were a couple places where it's like, now that we're talking about it, it's like, do you want to open this door? And my answer is usually no, I don't want to open that door. Something bad's back there, but it might've just been a tarot card or something like that.
Yeah. A lot of the collectibles for, I believe they call it clues or evidence. I can't recall which it is, but those are choice dependent as well, or reaction dependent, like QTEs failing or succeeding, could add or remove collectibles from being found.
I see. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Well, let's get into some final thoughts about the Quarry. I think we've done a good job of kind of talking about everything except for the most fun stuff, which is how people die or how people survive. So I'd like to end the non-spoiler parts with a just kind of like, who would you recommend the Quarry to?
If you like to be in control of your own destiny, if you want to know, if you want to play God, you have at it. You want to ruin lives, do it. You want to make everyone really happy, do it. But you got to be okay with the little bit of spook. So if you like games like that, I would say it's for you.
Mm-hmm. Even someone like me who doesn't like being scared, like I know a lot of people like horror games because they like that thrill of being scared. I don't. So like the horror games that I really like are some of the ones that are the least scary. Like this game's not super scary. I really like this game. Resident Evil 4, not a scary game. I fucking loved that game. It's just kind of the way it is. So if you really hate being in the woods at night, this might not be a great game. You spend a lot of time out in the woods at night. But I do agree, like if you like these choice-based games, if you like to, even like Liv said, get a little bit weird with it and just like, you know, choose the wrong answer and get everybody killed or try to keep everybody alive or any combination in the middle, I think you'll have a good time. I enjoyed kind of unraveling the mystery in this game. I think it's fun. And again, not super long, which like you and I, we play a lot of video games, make podcasts about video games. Whenever someone recommends a game and it's like, oh, this game's 8 hours long, I'm like, okay, I'm way more likely to play that now.
Yeah. Your podcast is called Tales from the Backlog. So,
yeah, so I got a lot of games to get through. So yeah, it's a pretty easy recommendation for me. The only reason I would not recommend it is if you just really don't like the woods or something like that.
If you're looking for a shooter game.
Yeah. Yeah, true. If you want something with a lot of action and gameplay depth and stuff like this is not the game for you. This is a cinematic choose your own adventure type thing. But of those, which I've only played a handful, I like this quite a bit. I like this more than Detroit. There's things about Until Dawn I like more than this, and things about the Quarry I like more than Until Dawn. I think they're both pretty damn good. So not a very difficult recommendation. So little housekeeping before we go into Spoiler Town. First things first, Liv, where can people find Between Two Gamers?
Between Two Gamers is on all podcasting platforms. If you want to see our very beautiful faces, it's usually me saying something crazy and Frui shaking his head no in disapproval. Check out our YouTube channel. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Between Two Gamers. We do trivia segments. Sometimes we share gameplay. You never know what you're going to get any day of the week.
Mm-hmm. And I will put links down to social media, YouTube, and stuff like that down in the show notes so people can easily find it. And again, if you're listening to this and you're an indie video games podcaster and you'd like to be in a Discord server with like 200 other indie video games podcasters talking shop and talking about games and stuff like that, getting feedback from other people is really valuable, something that people do for each other in the server. Again, recommendation for the Co-op Podcast Network Discord server, which if it's okay with you, Liv, I'll put an invite down there, or you want me to go hunt people out?
Yeah, you can put the invite at the bottom.
Okay.
I appreciate you spreading the word.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's become a really, really nice community. Everyone is super cool, very supportive. It's just one of the best things about doing a podcast that I never expected is that other podcasters would be so fucking cool and welcoming.
Yeah.
For Tales from the Backlog, normal podcast stuff. So tell a friend that you found a podcast that you enjoy. If you would like to support further, consider supporting on Patreon, joining the Tales from the Backlog Discord server where people will probably be talking about their experiences with the Quarry. Yeah, I would like to hear even more because, like I said, there's like 170 endings in this game. Leave a rating and review if your podcast platform allows it if you've enjoyed the show, and consider listening to A Top 3 Podcast, which is my other show. doing top 3 lists. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, it's spoiler time for The Quarry.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me know what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me.
All right, Liv and I are back, and it's time for the fun part. Liv, what the fuck is up with that police officer in the prologue? That was the first thing when I started. I was like, I didn't recognize that guy. Apparently he is Sam Raimi's brother, the guy who directed like the Spider-Man movies and stuff like that. It's his brother. I didn't recognize him. He fucking kills it in the prologue. He's so creepy.
Yeah, he is really creepy. I initially thought that he couldn't be the main antagonist because they would be showing it way too early. So
okay.
I knew that, maybe not knew is the right word, but I had a suspicion that he was going to be the one that you pin it on, but it's not this guy's fault. But they really want you to think early on, oh, there's something up with this guy, and they did a great job of making him as creepy as possible.
Yeah. So I thought, maybe I didn't think that this guy would be the main antagonist, but I definitely thought he would be part of the antagonizing force. When it turns out he's actually a really solid dude. He's trying to help you. He's just the creepiest dude ever. You know, go to the Harbinger Motel.
This isn't the goddamn Harbinger Motel.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I love that scene so much. Does this look like the goddamn Harbinger Motel to you? And I was like, oh, that's this guy. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with this guy, but he's killing it.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't be honest with what was going on anyway, you know? Like, he doesn't know how to talk to people, clearly.
Yeah, clearly. And it doesn't help that the name of the hotel is the Harbinger Motel. It could not be like any more, bad vibes just based on a name than that.
Yeah.
This is where the first jump scare is, when that lady's out in the woods. And I got real worried, like in the beginning, because she like pops up and whispers in Laura's ear, right? When she's walking around.
Silas.
Yeah. So I got worried that this was going to be like a jump scare game, but it turns out she's pretty much the only source of jump scares throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I would say so. I love her.
Yeah, she's great. And yeah, I just kind of wrote down in my notes, like, kids are making the worst horror movie mistakes 10 minutes into the game. So they drive to the camp. They see a locked cellar door and they're like, well, let me go check out what's down there. Nothing bad can happen down there. And
Someone's
I was like,
stuck.
Here we go. Yeah. They might be hurt, Max.
Yeah, sure, Laura. But one thing I did like about the prologue right off the bat was the banter between the two characters. And that got me really interested because I didn't really want to play another game where I was just here to make choices and the characters were like, blah. But that was something I was really into right off the bat.
Yeah, it's a sign of quality characters and dialogue to come. Laura and Max in the car is real good. And then, when the sheriff comes in, it's, it just gets taken up a notch. I loved it. So, chapter 1, you meet not the real crew, but the main crew, the counselors. And again, just like Until Dawn, the inciting event of the game is characters make the most selfish and horrible fucking decision ever to sabotage the car so they can't drive home.
This is what happens when you want more than you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
Throw back to my little snippet for that. Jacob ruins the whole, he ruins everything because he just wants to be with Emma, who doesn't want to be with him anymore because it was a summertime fling. So he thinks, oh, we'll just, sabotage the car. Gotta leave tomorrow morning. I'll make her love me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have 10 hours to make her fall in love with me. I can do that. Yeah. You have a choice here, and I actually looked it up. This does kind of influence some stuff later on in the game. I believe you can cut the fuel line, or you can take out like a rotor arm, or I don't know shit about cars. And
Me
I forget.
neither. It's a little
but a little
cap
plastic
thing.
piece. Yeah. So what did you do?
I took the cap because
Yeah.
I thought I'd have a better chance of. I had a feeling that we were going to need the car to get out. So I was thinking, okay, if I could just hold on to this piece of plastic, we can leave. But cutting something like that is going to be much harder to fix.
Yep. That is exactly what I thought. And it's the exact choice that I made too. Yeah. So the characters are bantering, getting ready. Suddenly we find out the car doesn't work. And Chris Hackett, who's David Arquette's character, kind of like the manager, boss man at the camp, finds out that they can't leave that night. And he freaks the fuck out. And this was the first kind of like, because I thought that I thought Laura and Max were dead after the prologue. Like, I did not expect them to come back.
Yeah.
So this was like the first time where I was like, what is happening here? Why is he so freaked out that they can't leave the camp tonight?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering what his angle was too. And he just abandons them.
Yeah.
Which was so funny to me.
Mm-hmm. Which now that we know why, it makes total sense why he wouldn't want to be anywhere near them. But at the time I was like, okay, so what you're going to do is you're just going to leave them here for like whatever it is that you're so scared about, you're going to leave, but you're going to make them stay here. Obviously, it makes total sense in retrospect. I think Chapter 1 does a great job of setting up what's happening while leaving you totally confused about what's going on.
Yeah, I would agree.
And Chapter 1, the end of Chapter 1 is also when you see the hunters, who Ethan Suplee, who I talked about earlier, the big guy, and then the old man, fucking smearing themselves with blood, pounding down a sign in the ground that says hunting season. And I was like, first of all, why are they covered in blood? But okay, so they're gonna try and kill this is some weird, like, most dangerous game type shit going on here.
I was going to ask you, did you watch the reveal trailer or story trailer for this before playing?
No.
Okay, I did. And I thought this game was going to be about cannibals because they showed them hunting and putting the sign down, and there's the camp counselors. So going into this game, I totally thought I was going to be playing a game about cannibals. Not what we got.
Yeah.
So that was really a plot twist for me.
Yeah. So the end of Chapter 1 gives you two of these like big things where you're like, what the hell is going on here? Chris freaks out that the kids can't leave the camp. And then like 2 minutes later, you got these dudes painting themselves with blood, and it's hunting season. And I was like, okay, I'm in. Like at this point, I was like, all right, the mystery's on. What the fuck?
Yeah, I was into this game pretty early. It hooked me.
So Chapter 2, Abby, I didn't talk about her. I love Abby. I love kind of the understated characters in this game. Like Dylan and Nick were kind of like, all right, so they're like the jokester dudes. But Ryan and Abby were the two at the beginning of the game where I was like, these two are cool. I like them. They're chill, So Abby and Nick get attacked by a monster out in the forest. And this was another time where I was like, hold, this is really different because they showed the monster really early in this game.
Yeah, they did. What about your truth or dare? Who'd you dare Ryan to kiss? Was it Caitlin or Dylan? Very important. This choice has ramifications you wouldn't believe.
I know it does. I had him kiss Caitlin.
What if Dylan wants love?
I know he does.
I've done both, so it's fine.
Okay. And so like that affects like something later on in the game, right?
No.
No, it doesn't? I thought it did.
If you kiss Caitlin, it says Dylan is sad or disappointed.
Okay.
But
Poor Dylan.
he still tries to flirt with Ryan like the whole time.
And then if you kiss Dylan, does it give a message that says Caitlin doesn't give a shit or something like that?
No, she doesn't care anyway.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
My baby, Dylan, my baby. So yes, they Abby and Nick get attacked.
Yeah, they get attacked. They show the monsters real early, and we get, again, those hunter dudes already shaking up like what I thought was going on. So they're hunting the monsters, not the counselors. But I spent an entire chapter thinking about like, oh, they have these fucking, deliverance weirdos living out in the woods hunting them. That's what this game is. But nope, monsters, werewolves.
My neighbor knew it was werewolves pretty early on. And I was like, aren't they supposed to be like furry, like in like dog-like?
Yeah,
so I wasn't
weird.
sold. I wasn't sold on the werewolf thing yet, but it is werewolves, as we know. But she got in on that really early. She's like, the moon's really big. They're hunting them in the woods. I was like, and what? The moon's big? She was right the whole time. I was making fun of her.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was weird that like the werewolves in this game burst out of their skin.
That was the best part. That was the best part.
I mean, it's cool. Like I think it's cool. It's gross, it's gory and stuff like that.
It was hilarious.
But then when they turn back into their human form, their skin is fine. Their clothes are fine. Everything's cool. And I was like, I'm going to need to see some studies on how this works. How do they get their skin back?
Oh my God. The first time that happened, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, what is happening?
It is pretty goofy. Yeah. It's definitely not scary. It's way goofier than that.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Chapter 3 and 4, I didn't write down a whole lot of notes other than in my game, the big guy, Ethan Suplee, what's his name?
Bobby.
Bobby traps Jacob in the woods. And this begins Jacob's entire game length thing of just wandering around shirtless. And he gets covered in blood. Bobby covers Jacob in blood. And so I just wrote down like in my notes, I was like, what does this do? Like, why is he covering him in blood? Does this attract the monsters? Is he trying to help him by covering him in blood? What is happening?
So you didn't throw dirt at him. You let him.
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I thought it would end really poorly if I tried to attack him. Jacob's a big dude, but this guy's bigger. This guy's country strong.
It basically determines whether or not Jacob makes it through the night, to be honest. Like, you need that blood.
Really?
Yeah.
You need that blood. Yeah.
Yeah.
We find out later that blood is actually super helpful.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's significantly easier to kill Jacob if you do not have that.
That makes sense. Yeah. So chapter 5 is where shit got real in my game. So we go to like the kind of broadcasting cabin and they're trying to send out a message. Dylan needs to fix the wiring. And I think it was a choice where I told him to like get up there and fix it. I can't remember.
He offers to do it.
He offers to do it. And I was like, yeah, go ahead.
So his situation is dependent on whether or not in the first chapter, a choice that you don't think is really that important is whether or not you break into the cabin.
Oh, okay.
So that is a huge choice in the game.
Weird.
So
very weird.
Did you break into the cabin?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the first chapter when you're controlling Ryan, right? Or Jacob?
Abby.
Can't remember. Abby?
Abby.
Shit.
So they had their duffel bags in the cabin and they were just going to leave them there or whatever. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Let's go get our duffel bags. So when you go in there.
Oh, yeah. With Abby and Emma. Right.
Yes. So that specific action has so many ramifications. It's insane. So if you don't open that door, then the werewolf on the roof is distracted by that noise, and Ryan will successfully have both limbs and connect the wire.
Weird.
So if you open that door, it doesn't distract the creature and it bites Dylan. But you still have to interact with things in that cabin for later parts. So like if you don't pick up the teddy bear that in the cabin, I didn't use it in my game. But if shit goes down at the big sequence at the end, you could use the bear to lure the werewolf into the freezer and lock him in the freezer.
That's crazy. I picked up the teddy bear, but I didn't get any opportunity to use it.
Same.
Anywhere. Yeah. So in chapter 5, in your first playthrough, when you were just kind of playing it naturally, what happened in this scene? Did Dylan get bit or not?
He got bit because I broke into the cabin. So he gets bit.
Me too.
And he's like, cut it off.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Good idea. So I cut it off.
Me too. So poor Dylan this is chapter 5. He spends several more hours wandering around with a stump, which is he doesn't lose a whole lot of blood. He seems okay, like not in a whole lot of pain throughout the game. But yeah, I cut his hand off too, because he was like, cut it off. And I was like, all right, man, like you asked me. I think there's a scene later where someone's like, Ryan, what the fuck? Why'd you cut his hand off? And he's like, he asked me to. And I was like, yeah, he asked me to. I'm just trying to be a good friend.
Yeah, and thinking of just like apocalypse games when you get bit by zombies and stuff, it was like, you gotta cut it off.
I didn't have that. I was like, well, he's either fucked or cutting it off is going to help. Like, I didn't see any way that cutting it off would be bad unless later, like, Dylan needs to use a doorknob and he can't or something like that. But yeah, so I cut it off. There wasn't a whole lot of hesitation, but that was the first like really gory thing that I saw in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you cut it off or did you shoot it off?
I cut it off with the chainsaw. Does shooting it off actually work?
You got to shoot him twice.
Oh, poor Dylan, man.
I know, my poor little baby. Oh, I love him.
I saw that choice and I was like, Ryan doesn't know a whole lot about guns. He's going to fuck this up. You better use the chainsaw. Also, as soon as I did that, I like trophies, but sometimes they give away too much. And I got a trophy pop when I cut his hand off for saving a friend from an infection. And I was like, oh, okay, so Dylan's fine now. Like, that was the right choice. I like trophies. I like them. But sometimes they just give away too much.
Yeah, that's true. If you don't want spoilers for this game, do not look at the trophy list before you play.
Yeah. I never look at the trophy lists, but a lot of times when a trophy pops up, unless it's like a very obvious, like, you beat chapter 6, when a trophy pops up, I'll open up the description for what I did to get that trophy. And I guess, should have said it in the non-spoiler section. There's something every episode that I feel like I should have said in the non-spoiler part, but I'm saying it now. If you're listening, don't read the trophy descriptions. Just let them come up. Don't read them. Move on with the game.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Chapter 6. Did you like Emma? Like, before we get into this, like, Emma feels like the natural evolution of Emily in Until Dawn, where she's kind of bitchy sometimes, but like, she's not just horrible to everyone like Emily was. Did you like her?
I cared about her the least. Well, no, I didn't care for Nick, mainly because he didn't have screen time, so I was just like, eh. So yeah. Emma, like, she's kind of bitchy, but I also kind of liked that she was like a vlogger, and I liked listening to all of her gossip the whole night. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I didn't despise her.
Yeah. As a character, I didn't love her, and I was like, she was probably the one where if she died, I would not have been like super upset about it. But I did enjoy those sections where she's doing like, the YouTube videos and broadcasting as she's walking through the scary ass woods and stuff like that. I did enjoy those sections in like a very horror movie type of way.
Yeah. So
Jacob reconnects with Emma. They get separated. You have a choice to run from the monster or hide. Did you run or hide? Do you know?
I hid. And my first playthrough, I hid.
And did he live?
Yes, because I also let him get the blood on his face. So
true.
You don't actually... He hides in a bush that has like no leaves on it. And I was
He's not very
we're
smart.
Dead.
He's not a smart
We're
guy.
dead. But the werewolf will go up to Jacob, smell him, and just walk away. If I did not have the blood on him, that's where Jacob dies. if you
Okay.
hide and have no blood.
I had a feeling that Jacob could die during this scene. I chose to run, and he got stuck in a bear trap. And one of the hunters, probably Bobby, the big guy, comes and knocks him out. So Jacob, everyone else is having a bad night. You know, they've seen a monster. Dylan gets his hand cut off, but after Dylan gets his hand cut off, everything's fine for him for the most part.
Just has
Jacob just
one
keeps
hand.
having this series of like really unfortunate things happen like throughout the entire game.
He deserves it.
He's an idiot. Yeah, he deserves it. This is all his fault. Like,
Yeah.
let's not forget that. But it's just one bad thing after. Like, he never has a chill chapter. It's always just something bad happens to him.
Yeah.
So, also in chapter 6, they get attacked by a werewolf. And the other people get attacked by a werewolf. And Laura comes out. Laura shoots it, and it dies in the pool. And I had no idea who this was. Apparently, it's Mr. Hackett's daughter, Kaylee, I think her name is, right?
Yes.
And then Nick starts to go crazy and try and attack Abby. And you have a choice whether to shoot him or not. What did you do? Did you shoot him?
Oh, in the pool house?
Yeah,
Yes, I shot him.
so did I. He deserved it.
Yeah, that was really like crazy. And before the pool house where he's like trying to get all over Abby and Abby pushes him in the pool, he's like flopping around like a fish. That's apparently that's another sign of werewolves. And my friend who I was playing it with just had an abundance of werewolf knowledge. And she was like, "Oh my god, he's definitely a werewolf." And I was like, "'Cause he's wet?" Like,
Yeah. They posed it as rabies in the game. They were like, "Oh, he's afraid of water. Maybe he has rabies." But I think it's actually Ryan is like, "No, it's a fear of drinking water, not a fear of water. If you have rabies."
which is scary.
Yeah.
So scary.
Yeah, it is super rabies is horrifying. I used to work I used to be a dog catcher, and so I'd have to do stuff with rabies animals that had rabies, and learning about it and like the progression of the disease is fucking terrifying. So
Yeah. I've read about it after this game.
yeah, get your dogs vaccinated, everybody. But yeah, I shot Nick. He deserved it. Do you know what happens if you don't shoot him here?
Yes.
What happens?
Abby's dead.
That kills Abby. Shit.
Rips her head off.
Jesus. Yeah, I shot the fuck out of him. Like as soon as it was like shoot him or not, I was like, nope, we're shooting him. He's getting too aggressive here. So, in your first playthrough, this is the end of chapter 6. Laura's back. Jacob's been captured, right?
Yes.
Is anyone dead at this point in your first playthrough?
Not for me.
Me either. Everyone's alive except for Kaylee Hackett, and I think she's the only person in the game that has to die.
I think that could be true. I think that's
I
true.
think I looked it up, and she's, because you have no interaction with her. I was wondering if there was a choice earlier where you could not have her die, but I looked it up, and I believe she's the only one. But I think she is mandatory to die.
Yeah, I think that's. I know her dying is definitely a narrative beat. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you're correct. I think that's the only death you have absolutely no control over.
Yeah. So by this point, we're about to start chapter 7. I'm starting to do a little like mental comparisons where I was like, at this point in the game and until dawn, I had a couple people dead and a couple
Yeah.
people who I thought were dead, not actually dead. But this one, everyone's still alive. And now we are playing as Laura. This goes to a flashback after Laura and Max did not get killed like I thought they did. They're just in these jail cells.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah. I enjoyed these chapters a lot. I think Laura is like the performance for Laura is really good. I think she's a really good character.
Yeah, I loved her.
Max is super funny too, like super likable dude, I thought.
Yeah, were you cooperative with the cop or not?
Yeah. I was, because I thought that was going to be the only way to get out of it alive or something, was to be cooperative because I was like, Laura's pretty smart. I think she knows that being aggressive with this guy is not going to work. So I was cooperative.
I was cooperative for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. Because then sometimes it was a little shitty because I knew that, well, Laura's alive. So I could live life on the edge a little bit if I need to.
Mm-hmm. On your second playthrough, did you be more aggressive? Were you more defiant?
Yeah, I found myself being a little defiant, but I knew that it was good to be cooperative, so I balanced it. But I do like to see the other pathways.
Mm-hmm. So do you know then, like, is there a way for Laura and Max to not escape here? Like, is there a way for them to just stay trapped?
They have to escape because you do meet Laura in that previous chapter. But how you leave will impact later on. So how did you escape?
I escaped by stealing a syringe with like a sedative and kind of jabbing the sheriff.
Yes.
But like, I don't remember specifics, but I did do this in like the nicest way possible. Like, I was still, because at that point I had figured out, like, I don't think the sheriff's a bad person, but I need to get out of here. So I'm not going to leave him in danger if there's any choice like that. Like, I just remember I knocked him out in like the nicest way possible.
Yes. So if you do not pick up the syringe and your only way out is grabbing his gun,
right? Yeah,
you could shoot him, but you won't kill him. And when they meet up again, he'll kill Laura.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I remember when I got the option to try and steal his gun, I was like, that's not going to end well. There's no way.
No.
So, yeah, chapter 7 is a really fun chapter. I wrote down, very funny that the county that they live in is called North Kill County. They find very good names for all these places. The Harbinger Motel, North Kill County, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Max is turning into a werewolf. This is the point in the game where they actually say the word werewolf to talk about what's going on. Because even though he was transforming and we saw Nick transform earlier, I was still like, I don't know what that is. Werewolves are big furry things, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't clock this as being a werewolf until they actually said it. I was like, oh, okay, they're skinless werewolves, I guess.
Yeah, like naked cats, but werewolves.
Yeah, naked cats, but a lot more bloody. I thought this was a cool situation for Laura as like a character, because I already liked her from the prologue, but she's very like determined and like ready to get down and like, what do I gotta stab this guy in the neck with a syringe? Fucking let's do it. She's ready to go, and she becomes like this kind of badass character for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
After being rightfully pretty scared and stuff in the prologue. And I think she's a really good character. Like, if I had to pick one of the teenagers that I thought was like the best character, Laura might be the pick.
Yeah, I really liked her character.
Yeah. And then chapter 7 is when you find out that Chris Hackett is the main werewolf. And so you have your task, which is to me, it was obvious to go kill Chris. I know you don't have to, but he's the main werewolf. And suddenly that clicks into place. Like, why was he freaking out earlier about the kids being stuck at the camp? Is because he knows he's going to turn into a werewolf and he's going to kill them. So that was really cool. And like, I thought Chris was super likable too. So when you find out that he's the one you have to go kill, I was like, oh, this is really good. I like this.
Oh yeah, this next sequence was really fun.
In chapter 8, when you're in the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
In between, darling, you and me make this thing complete. We go drifting out to
So just walk me through what happened in that house then.
Okay, so my first playthrough, they go into the basement, I suppose, where the cages are.
Yeah. Right.
And you
so
have...
this is Ryan and Laura.
Correct.
For people listening. Yeah.
Yes. And Ryan's one of the characters that has a lot of plot armor in this game. Him and Caitlin have a lot of plot armor. So they will always go into the house together. So when you go in, you have the option to like look around and stuff. And then at the bottom in the basement, there's like these electrified cages. And I was like, what is going on here? And it's also the whole plot point that people are like, why didn't they just lock up the Hackett's? Why were the Hackett's out that night? And stuff like that, if you want to get into like plot holes. But we had the werewolf in one, and you have Jacob in his underwear. And they're talking with each other. And then one thing I liked about this game is that they added like the interrupt mechanic.
Yeah.
So it was, I think all it said was stop Laura. And I said out loud, stop Laura for doing what? And she just shoots the werewolf.
Right.
Did you stop
Same
her?
here.
Oh.
No, I had the same thing where I was like, actually, I might have thought like, she's going to shoot a werewolf? Cool. Let her shoot a werewolf. Turns out that werewolf is Nick. And I didn't know that. So that's where Nick died. I didn't know this at the time, but he was the first one to die in my game.
Yes, same. On my first playthrough, same. I did that. And when it's obvious you shouldn't shoot a gun in the house, I feel like that's still canon to Laura's character, though. Like, she would have done that.
Oh, yeah. She's on a warpath, for sure.
Yeah, so like, when that happened, I was, like, not pissed because I felt like her character naturally would do that. But in my other playthrough, I didn't shoot.
Nick?
Yeah, we didn't shoot him in my second playthrough.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so we have the same thing going on, at least until now. So then up in the house, there's a bunch of stuff that can happen in the house in this section. So tell me what happened there. So
there's a big showdown in the room where everyone's being like, it's your fault, it's your fault. And you have Travis Hackett, which is the creepy cop, his mom, his dad. Then you have Ryan and you have Laura. And then I think Bobby makes an appearance. And basically it's time to escape the house. But Ryan gets stabbed.
Yep.
So that happens either way. If you don't shoot Nick, basically what happens is you overhear a lot of more conversation between Constance, which is the mother, and Travis. And she basically tells him that, like, it's all his fault. You're not protecting the family and all this stuff. And I was like, you are such a bitch. So, so then there's like a struggle moment. And in my game, Laura shot her dead.
Yep. Me too. They're struggling over a gun.
That happened
and
to you.
It blows off like half her face.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. Same thing going on here. It felt to me like Laura would have gone for the gun. This old lady's crazy. Like, she's not just going to let this crazy old ass woman have this gun. So yeah. And it blows off her face and it's super gory and brutal. And I like it.
Yeah. The part one of the Hackett showdown. Then you're playing basically cat and mouse with Ryan and Bobby.
Yeah.
And anything happened for you in particular during these chase scenes where Ryan's getting chased by Bobby or Laura's being chased by... don't remember the father's name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know his name either. So, all right. In the one with Bobby and Ryan, there's a whole bunch of those hold your breath sequences. By this point, I knew what I was doing, so those were really easy. So Ryan survived like pretty easily in my game. And then with the old guy, with the father Hackett and Laura, nothing really came of that. Like, both of them were fine at the end. And then we had this showdown with Chris. I don't remember if that happens before Ryan and Laura talk about her biting him to heal his injury.
It is.
I think it's after.
Yeah. Yes.
So anyway, what about those kind of chases with Bobby and Ryan? What happened for you?
Everyone got off free, but I've played both pathways for Ryan specifically, where you can... So he got stabbed, so you have the option to keep the knife in or take it out. I kept it in because you're supposed to.
That's what you're supposed to do, right? The exact same thing. I was like, I don't know for sure, but I feel like you shouldn't pull a knife out that's stuck in your intestines, right?
Yes. So I kept it in. And then when Bobby approaches you, you can then take it out and stab him.
Yeah.
Did you?
Nope.
I didn't, but I also played where you do that. And it's a very funny clip. He's like, oh no, he stabbed me. That hurts.
Yeah, I did do that. And he runs off. He runs crying to like his dad.
Yes.
Like he's like a big kid. You're right. I did do that.
That's so funny. And then in the Laura playthrough, I didn't do it, but I was really tempted. You have the option to play the piano, and I wanted to click that key so bad, but I didn't do it. But I really
Do you get a trophy for doing that? That feels like something you get a trophy for.
No, you don't. But I like the option in this game where you can do optional things just to fuck yourself over.
Yeah. So we get to that part. I guess both of us in our first playthroughs got to this part unscathed where Ryan is about to die. And Laura says like, hey, if I bite you and turn you into a werewolf, you'll heal. It's been shown like many times that the werewolves regenerate injuries. So
she could see
that's how you're going to keep them alive. What's that?
Laura could see with her eye now because Max hurts
her.
Right,
yeah.
So she's like, it works.
Yep. So did you have any like hesitation to let her bite Ryan here?
I was like, well, we still haven't killed Chris Hackett, so we could do it. We might as well bite.
That was kind of my thought process where it was like, Chris Hackett is responsible for Laura being a werewolf. So if Laura bites Ryan, he becomes a werewolf, and then we kill Chris Hackett in 5 minutes, Ryan will go back to normal. Yeah. That was kind of my thought process. And also, but the main thing, like before I even thought about that, was this is a video game. I'm going to choose the choice that sounds the most fun right here, and letting her turn him into a werewolf sounded the most fun.
Yeah, as we're talking about this very much happens before the big showdown where everyone shows up in the room. I think we might have said that it happened after, but...
Yeah, so what happened in that big showdown for you?
Okay, so Ryan, Travis, and Laura were alive at the end of it. I shot Chris Hackett.
Me too.
And I feel like Bobby was there. Yeah, Bobby's alive, I think.
Yeah.
So what happens if you stab him, he's less useful, so there's more casualties. But at this point, walking out of the room, I had Ryan, Travis, and Laura alive.
Okay. Yeah, in my game, Chris is the only one who died here. And Mama Hackett, she died a long time ago. But ending this chapter, it was just Chris and Mama Hackett that died.
Mm-hmm.
It actually sounds like we're having very similar first playthroughs, which earlier in the non-spoiler section, I said that I felt like it was way easier to keep people alive, and this is proof of that, I guess.
Yeah. No, I killed off a couple characters literally in the last chapter.
Yeah. So in the last chapter, you... I think this is the chapter, or it's the one before, where you control Max, and he wakes up out of werewolf mode, and he doesn't have any clothes, so he puts on this kind of pink like midriff hoodie and like these like kind of tight pants. I thought that was super funny because Max is goofy.
Oh, it was so funny. I took a picture of him.
I think I do have a screenshot of that too because he looked so goofy. Oh shit, before we get to Max, we had that scene in the junkyard with Dylan and Caitlin. So how did that go for you? Did both of them make it out of that?
First of all, I was super lost in there. I could not figure out where I was. So it took me longer than average, I think, to get through that section. But in my playthrough, both of them made it out alive. And I think the first time I like shook the car or swung it around, but ultimately like basically Caitlin just falls out of the car and the car falls on him and then you leave. So
Yep. Okay, that's exactly what happened in my playthrough too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I liked that chapter. I like that scene a lot. I like how when you turn on the crane, it starts just blasting music like super fucking loud. and Dylan like freaks out about that. I enjoyed that.
I do know that Dylan could be dead by now. So there is a scenario where Caitlin goes alone to the junkyard.
Okay.
I don't know if I feel like she probably has the opportunity to escape, but I do know that she could be there alone.
Okay. Dylan could probably die if you didn't cut his hand off.
Yeah, he could have turned into a werewolf and just
Right.
not been there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, chapter 10. Max swims to, or Max like gets off the island, or he's on the island and he has the chance to swim to shore or not. What did you do?
Stay. I felt like that was the very obvious choice.
Okay. I made him swim to shore
But
because
why?
because I was like, he wants to find Laura. Maybe he'll be helpful.
You have to think about the situation. He was
Yeah.
put on that island because werewolves don't like the water. So at
Right.
this point, you know that all of the other werewolves are dead or contained. So
That's what I thought.
He was safe if you just left him on the island. The werewolves can't get to him because they're either dead or captive.
That's what I thought. But there's one werewolf that is not dead or captive,
Yes.
which is Silas. And as soon as Max gets to the other side, Silas kills him immediately.
I know.
As soon as he gets up on the dock. So Max died in my game right there. I felt bad about that. And I was like, when that happened, I was like, yeah, should have had him stay. But I thought all the werewolves were taken care of.
No, I feel like I don't want to like make fun of you, but I felt like that's so funny that like you thought to swim to shore because in my opinion I was like, oh, obviously we're gonna stay, and then they
Yeah.
like punish you for not counting the werewolves.
Yeah. Well, and I don't remember if this is before or after, what's his name? Travis tells everyone, actually, there's one more we have to go deal with.
Yes.
The white wolf, Silas. I don't remember if they revealed that before or after you make this decision with Max.
It's before.
Okay. But he said, we don't know where it is, right? He was
Mhm.
like, we don't know where this thing is. So I was like, Max is probably fine. He was not fine. So Max is dead. And you have this scene where they get in the car to go out to the woods where the prologue took place, the exact same spot. I thought that was cool. You find out the reason they swerved off the road in the prologue was because they saw the white wolf out in the road. I love it when games do this. The monster was on screen minute 2 of the game, but you have no idea. Or I had no idea.
Yeah, and this is where my characters died.
Okay. All right. Tell me what happened.
I missed the QTE. The timing was completely different than all of the other QTEs.
This is the one you were being coy about. This one.
So quite literally, there is a car accident because what happens is I missed the first QTE. Silas puts his hands on Travis and fucking kills him. Then
Jesus.
the car's swerving. Laura's trying to like steer the car, and Silas rips the car off the road, and you have like 2 seconds to grab the shotgun. So Laura picks up the shotgun and shoots Silas. Silas, Laura, Travis, Ryan, dead.
Damn.
Yes, but in my the second playthrough, I will probably get the same ending that you have gotten at this point.
All right. So this is in the car while they're driving,
Yes,
before they even go out walking in the woods.
correct.
Damn.
The QTEs were so forgiving the whole game, but that there's 2 QTEs you have to hit, and they are significantly quicker, and you're primed the entire game that you have like a second and a half, 2 seconds, and they're like half.
Damn.
So
Yeah,
I
I
wasn't
hit those
prepared.
QTEs. Yeah.
That's what happens if you trust the QTE timer.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. So I hit those QTEs, and then they're trying to set up this like final choice of like whether to kill Silas the wolf boy or not.
I love
And I was
that.
like, not a choice at all. Kill that fucking thing.
I loved that. If you
liked it?
It's so, I thought it was so funny, first of all, because first I love Eliza, who is the fortune teller.
Right.
And
yeah, his mom.
Yes, his mom. And like if Laura shows any hesitancy, they start freaking out. Travis is, what are you doing? So you
I'm
kill
gonna go
Silas.
look up that scene on YouTube, I guess. Yeah, as soon as like the shooting thing came up, I was like, boom, shot him immediately. But I do think that's funny that if she hesitates, like all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, they hesitate. And did you have the blood vial? Did one of your characters get covered in blood?
I want to say yes, but I don't remember.
So what happens is if you don't kill Silas, and Travis will try to take the gun or something, and if for some reason Laura keeps on to the gun while Travis is trying to take it, Silas gets up and kills everyone who doesn't have the blood.
Damn. See, I figured like they're setting up this choice of like, do you kill the poor hurt wolf boy or not? I figured if you don't kill him right away, he's going to kill you. So it was like, literally as soon as that shooting, like reticule came up, I was like, nope, boom, done. We're going home.
I did that my second playthrough, but I did like, I like to, after I do my like preferred playthrough, I like to look online and just like see like, oh, what could have happened? And the fact that everyone could literally die there was so funny to me.
Yeah. I had a good time going through the wiki and reading some of like the possible outcomes and some of those choices that I thought were insignificant that turned out to be like actually a big deal. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so how did your big chase scene end up at the end? At the house, the lodge, rather, with Caleb.
Caleb.
So you're you set up the final frontier with Caitlin and Dylan and Abby and Emma. They're all in the house.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah, how did that go for you?
Yeah, okay, that was a little bit earlier, right. Yeah, Caitlin shot the fuck out of him as soon as she had the option.
Yeah, so everyone survived that option.
Yeah, okay, it's coming back to me now. So we had this like action movie sequence where it was like, we found some silver bullets, roll it to Caitlin or like toss it to Caitlin. And she grabs it, shoves it in the gun, pop, pop, Caleb's dead. It was a cool little sequence that felt like I could have fucked it up like any number of ways.
Yeah, so you have multiple opportunities to be dead here. And there's also the option, rather, that Emma and Abby are not there. So you might not get the silver bullets.
Oh,
so
true.
that's where the teddy bear is useful. Because Dylan goes and hides in the kitchen, but you and I both had everyone alive. So we presumably both got the silver bullets. So if Caitlin had tried to lure him into the kitchen, she would, and you had the teddy bear, you could throw the teddy bear in the back freezer, get Caleb in there and lock him up.
Nice.
So you wouldn't kill him. I think he dies by hypothermia.
Yeah, he probably, even if, he wakes up because you kill Silas later, he's naked. He's going to be naked in a freezer. So not great.
But I also killed him.
And then the other thing I didn't mention yet is after you kill Silas, you get a cutscene with the fortune teller and she freaks out on you and it's so good.
It was so good. I am the voice that you hear in the back of your head, the whispers that your hair at the back of your neck sticks up. And I was like, I feel so bad. But it had to be done. Eliza, we're boys. Like you and I, we go back 9 hours, right? We go back. We're boys.
Yeah.
But that whole sequence, I was like, oh.
It was kind of like, because I really liked Eliza as the fortune teller character. But once I found out she's mother of the wolf boy, I was like, oh, well, I mean, I'm very sorry, ma'am, but your son had to go. Very sorry. Yeah.
No, after that scene, I kind of contemplated a little bit. I was like, should I do a pro Silas run? And then I don't want to get burnt out of the game. So it's something I'll probably do in a year or something. But last scene that you have with her, she's like, I helped you all night. And I was like, you did. We're boys. This is business, baby. It's just business.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Your son was a fucking werewolf. He had to go. I'm surprised you don't see this too. So, yeah. So just to recap, in my game, the deaths were Mama Hackett got her face blown off by Laura, same as your game, right?
Yes.
Chris Hackett, I killed him. And I should say, Kaylee, the one who gets shot in the pool, she's the only one that has to die, including Silas, as far as I know.
Silas could make it out of the game alive. You don't have to cure it. Yeah, you don't have to cure the thing.
Right. So is there a way for everyone to survive? Because I feel like leaving some of the werewolf characters alive would kill some of the other characters.
I'm actually looking it up because I want to see exactly who you could... I'm not turning off ad blocker.
Yeah, Chrome wants you to turn ad blocker off now, and that's pretty shitty.
No. We don't do that. I want to like give an accurate thing. I know, I'm pretty sure everyone can be alive except for Chris Hackett, Kaylee Hackett. Pretty sure everyone else can be alive.
So it doesn't seem like there's a way to get through with everybody alive.
I don't have the complete list, but I'm pretty sure that obviously Kaylee has to die. And then I'm pretty sure Chris Hackett has to die. I don't think there's a scenario in which he can live. Because if you don't shoot him, everyone in the room would die.
Right. So in order to get the trophy for keeping everyone alive, it's ensuring that all of the playable characters stay alive. So all the teenagers. So you would have to kill Chris. Kaylee would have to die. Caleb would probably have to die because I feel like he would kill Caitlin if you didn't kill him.
So, like, there's a lot of people when you're playing God, there's a lot of people's lives on the line.
Yeah, for sure. So in my game, we had Mama Hackett, Laura killed her, Chris died, Kaylee died. She'll always die. Nick died, killed by Laura. Same as your game, right?
Yeah.
Max died in my game. Bad decision on my part. You're tisking me over there, but
I'm sorry, man. I mean, come on, what are you doing?
Yeah, and Caleb. Caleb died, killed by Caitlin, and then Silas, because Silas had to go, as we established. So, how about you?
Yeah, ours are pretty similar. Camp counselor wise, rather. Nick's dead, and then Laura, Ryan, they're dead.
Right.
Travis died, and Chris Hackett, Kaylee Hackett, Constance. I feel like the dad probably died. I can't for whatever reason. I mean, he was there for like 15 seconds. Like, does he count?
Yeah. I don't even know how he would die unless you don't kill Chris. Maybe he kills Papa Hackett.
Yeah, I feel like he might. I think maybe Chris gets to him before. I mean, honestly, I don't even care about this guy. What is his name? Like, I
don't even know his name. Yeah,
I think it starts with
I didn't know
J.
Mama Hackett either. Yeah,
I know her name's Constance. I don't know why I know that, but then I've played the way where you save everyone and everyone goes home. Yay!
Yeah, yeah. So I feel pretty good about who died. And the only one who died in my game where I was like, Dave, you fucked up, was Max. Everyone else, I was like, they had to. I mean, Chris, you got to kill Chris. Caleb, he's trying to kill Caitlin. I got to shoot him. And Silas, obviously. Max was the only one where I was like, you fucked up, Dave. Max in his little midriff hoodie that he's wearing.
Adorable.
Zip-up hoodie. Yeah, he's super cute in that. Yeah.
Fashion icon. There's a couple trophies in this game that I would like to like do another playthrough to get.
Okay.
And one of them is everyone can get infected. And I have a hard time figuring out how Abby would have gotten infected, or like I don't know how she could get it, but there is a trophy for that. And then similarly, if everyone gets infected, that means Jacob and Emma are infected and they have to be alive. And then Jacob will confess to Emma why this night happened. And I just want to see that scene.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you're right. I want to see the reaction to him confessing that.
Yeah, they both have to be infected and then they have to be alive for them to have that conversation. So it's like a lot to keep track of, but there's a trophy for that. And like, I just can't even imagine how that would go.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for that to come back and have everyone blow up at Jacob, but everything got so out of control and Jacob lost the little plastic piece down in the lake.
Yeah.
He can die down there. I know that that's one way that Jacob can die is that he can drown because he gets caught in like a chain.
Yep.
Yeah. But no, in my game, Jacob was doomed to spend the entire night in his underwear, just going through one hellish thing after another.
Yep. Same. He got what he deserved.
So the last thing I wrote down is that I just thought that like, because, we said before in Until Dawn, you get big misdirections about what the actual evil thing is for the whole game until you find out near the end or, at least halfway through. In this game, the werewolves are the antagonistic force in like chapter 2, but you get all this misdirection about who's helpful and who's not. So like the game starts out, you think Travis is evil and Chris is helpful, when it turns out you have to kill Chris in order to keep all the counselors alive. And Travis is actually a solid dude who's trying to walk this tightrope between helping everybody, but also trying to keep his family alive.
Yeah, there is certainly a lot going on in this game at all times.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own shit to do that night.
Mm-hmm. And the two, Bobby and Papa Hackett, who are out hunting, another misdirection. Like, I thought there's no way that they're going to be evil when it turns out they're not really evil. They're not good either. They're just trying to help the family, I guess. Like, they don't seem like they really give a shit about the kids except trying to not create more werewolves,
So what do you make of why the Hacketts weren't locked up that night? And also, summer camp isn't just for 1 month. So how did they deal with that the month before?
Summer camp must have just been for 1 month because it was starting the day after the full moon when Max and Laura got there. They got there 1 day early in the prologue, which is why Chris is down in the cellar. He locked himself down there as a werewolf because he knew what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just Max and Laura got there 1 day early. So camp was supposed to start the next day, or counselors report the next day. So
yeah, okay.
I think that was the plan. I think the plan was for the counselors to all go home if Jacob didn't fuck it all up. Chris is going to lock himself down in the cellar, and then they have... Actually, that wouldn't explain why Caleb and Kaylee are running free, but at least Chris is trying to do the responsible thing.
Yeah, I thought that maybe Kaylee and Caleb wanted to take Silas on themselves or something. That was like maybe how I can explain it. But to be honest, like it doesn't, I'm just kind of writing it off for them.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like, because Chris obviously feels like he knows he's not going to be in control of his actions. So it doesn't seem like Caleb and Kaylee would be able to make any kind of conscious choice to go like fight Silas while they're in werewolf form.
Yeah, I know.
So Chris is trying to do the responsible thing. Caleb and Kaylee, they're young people. They're not super responsible, right? That's what young people are like. They just do whatever they want. So
yeah, I guess so.
You're right. Not the most responsible, at least on their part. At least Chris was trying until Max and fucking Laura, like, fucking cutting a chain off of a locked cellar door, like, make the worst decisions.
I know.
Well, all right. This has been fun, Liv. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about the Quarry.
Oh, thank you for having me. Honestly, like, none of my friends are playing this game. So when you asked me, hey, would you want to talk about the Quarry? Sign me up.
Yeah, this has been a really good time. And it's kind of a shame that our paths only diverged like in that last chapter, basically. But I'm glad that I was starting to get worried. I was like, are we going to have the exact same fucking playthrough here? I am glad that it did diverge and we did have some different characters die there at the end.
Yeah, kind of messed up, but I went back to correct my wrongdoings.
Right. Yeah. And I'm if I ever play the game again, I'll keep Max on that island.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
should. I would recommend it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on. Everybody who is listening, thank you so much. Another recommendation to check out Between Two Gamers. Check down in the show notes for links to everything that they're doing. And yeah, this is the last episode of Spooky Month. So next week we'll have something that is not a horror game. Thank God. So tune in next week, everyone, for the next game that comes out of the backlog.
Oh, I could hide neath the wings of the bluebird as she sings. The 6 o'clock alarm would never ring, but it rings and I rise, wipe the sleep out of my eyes. My shaven razor's cold and it stings. Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? You once thought of me as a white knight on his steed. Now you know how happy I can be.